Welcome to episode 048 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. It's August 19th, 2024. Kodax is here, that's me. And this week I've got a special guest with me for the duration of the intro of the podcast. You've heard about his chair, but now you're going to hear from the man himself, Nintendo Boy 88, aka Ben.
Yep, that is me. I am here. Thank you, Taylor, for having me on this podcast. Big fan. I'd like to say I'm the number one fan of the Bit Beacon.
Yeah, I've said this many times that you are our number one fan. The fervor you have for it. Like, I come home and you're like, is it out yet? Is it done yet? Have you recorded? And, yeah, he's ready for it. He's, you know, we listen to the pod together when we drive to bowling some weeks.
Yeah. As soon as I get the memo, I start listening to it as soon as I can.
Okay, so he's a big fan, but can he translate himself into a good sort of intro co-host? We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's first talk about what have we been playing, what have we been buying. I haven't received any purchases this week. What about you? You buy any new games lately? No.
There's some that will come out eventually, but haven't bought them yet.
Okay. So what have you been playing? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. One thing I like to do is, for me, I am what you call a nostalgic gamer. So if there's nothing coming out that I want to get right away, I will just kind of replay some stuff that I really, really like. Some things I've liked to do is Kingdom Hearts, the Uncharted series, but most recently on PS5 they came out with the first Sly Cooper game.
That's right.
We could play that again and had a brand new trophy list that was different from the PS3 list.
So this is I believe these $10 games that they're releasing are like actual straight ports of the PS4 or PS1, PS2 versions of these games. And I think they're like up-res a little bit so the graphics look nicer maybe, aside from like whatever pre-rendered like cutscenes and stuff can still look really low resolution, but rather than it be like an actual like port or remaster, this is more of like an emulation of like the original game, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So they've released the first game, the first Sly Cooper, and you played that, platinumed it, I'm presuming?
I did, yes.
Yeah. So, but that didn't stop you, right? You're not waiting for them to re-release Sly 2
It was so
3.
fun. I just wanted to play the rest, and good friend Taylor here let me borrow his PS3 copy, and I just played the other games just for fun.
Yeah. I can't fault you for that. Was there anything about specifically the first one that got the PlayStation 5 port? Was there anything particular you remember about it? Did it run a lot smoother than the original? Was the frames maybe a little, because it's being emulated, it's not going to be necessarily like a perfect one-to-one, so a lot of that lag and stuff that maybe was there in the original or the PS3 version might have gotten like kind of removed.
Yeah, there wasn't as much lag, and the frames per second was definitely a little bit faster.
Okay.
So huge improvement there.
Now, you're a big trophy hunter, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So what were some of the differences between the trophies from, say, the first Sly Cooper on PS3 and the one on PS5?
Okay. Well, the PS3 version is pretty much your basic collecting trophy list. So pretty much every collectible that you can get, you would have had to get in for the trophy.
Okay.
The only thing that I say that was left out that was included in the new version was the time trial aspect.
Okay.
Yeah. That was really the main difference.
So, was the time trial manageable, challenging?
It was, because the main thing is that you didn't have to complete every single time trial for every level.
Okay.
You only had to complete, I believe it was 10 different levels.
Oh, okay, so that's not too bad.
It wasn't too bad.
Pretty manageable.
And they included a very nice feature that made it very less stressful for me, where you could, in case you screwed up anything in your time trial run, you could quickly rewind it.
Right. So a lot of like modern retro or ports of modern retro games have this like rewind feature. The Nintendo Switch Online retro game collections have this rewind feature.
Yes.
And so PlayStation's also been using it in their retro kinds of products as well. Now, is this something you consider cheating? Like, did you really beat the game if you use the rewind feature?
I'll be honest, I didn't use it as much as I thought I would, because just the semi-perfectionist in me, I really would start over some parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's respectable, I think. I have been continuing to play... Sorry, did you have anything else you want to say about Sly or anything else you've been playing?
The main thing I play, too, I know back when Rick was on the podcast, he would talk about this. I am a big Pokemon Go player, too.
Yes. Okay, yeah. We'll talk about some of your recent Pokemon Go exploits.
Well, the last main event we had was that good old Adventure Week, and it did not go very well for me, I will admit. I'm kind of a sucker for Pokemon Go. It's really the only game that I will actually invest some of my personal money into.
Right, like the microtransactions.
Yeah, the microtransactions. Yeah, every other game I have, especially on my phone, I don't, but that's the only one I do. So for upcoming events, I will buy the extra eggs for incubators, and I will buy extra raid passes. Okay.
Do you buy the like little $5 research things and stuff like that too?
Occasionally, not as much. If it has something that I really, really want, I will.
So what tempts you in those? Like some special cosmetics, or is it more?
No, it's just the affinity for new shinies that I don't have.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. So if it has extra encounters with a Pokemon you don't have, that might be enough to...
And I'm a sucker every time they say increased odds.
Yeah, it could be 1% more.
Yep. And that doesn't always go my way, which is exactly how Adventure Week went. The main aspect of it was if you get 7k eggs, it was an increased chance of hatching shinies for every single fossil type Pokemon for Adventure Week.
So were there only fossil types in the 7k eggs?
Yes.
Okay. So basically every 7k egg had an increased chance.
And for that week, I probably hatched well over 50 to 60 eggs.
Wow.
And no shinies.
Not a single shiny?
Yeah. The only shinies I got 2 shiny Aerodactyls in the wild. So that was cool. I really enjoyed that, but nothing in the eggs.
That has got to be... it's got to feel not too great. Especially when like you unloaded like real cash to get all those incubators and stuff.
Yeah.
You got to apply that clown makeup on your face. Yeah. But we did some raids the other night, just a couple quick raids, and you got something pretty cool.
Yeah, the most recent legendary is the Pokemon Thundurus, and he's in the 5-star legendary raids. And me and Taylor went out the other night for 2 raids that were right by our apartment, and I happened to get the shiny, so that was really cool.
It didn't feel great to be me, but I'm sure it felt great to be you.
It was, yeah.
Okay, so I've been playing Monster Hunter Stories, as I have been for the past couple weeks. This past weekend, I really kind of did nothing but sit on the couch and play this game. The couple, breaks here and there to watch something on Netflix or go out very briefly. I have a busy weekend coming up.
You sure do.
So I was kind of just wanting this past weekend to just be me and my video game. And that it pretty much was. So I've made quite a bit of progress on the game. I only have one story-related trophy left, so I imagine I'm pretty close to the end.
Okay.
I gotta try to finish it before this weekend. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, are you gonna go for the platinum?
I was just about to ask that.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I might. Okay. I might, but Genshin Impact has its big 5.0 update next week.
Ooh,
that adds a big new region to the game.
Yeah, you always look forward to those. Yeah.
This is like the big once a year like major version update the game goes through.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to finish the story of the game before that happens. But then I might kind of have to put the game on the back burner and focus on Genshin Impact's big new update next week.
That. Yeah.
Which will also have, its own set of, 5, 6, 7 new trophies to get as well.
Yeah.
And I have 100% trophy completion rate in Genshin Impact.
You sure do.
I gotta keep that up.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's refreshing to have someone who's got an appetite for that stuff.
Yes.
Because I don't the way I used to have it. I used to be a little bit of a trophy fiend myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm okay with walking away from a game, if not being at 100%. But there was a time where I used to, it would hurt me. I would be the person who'd be researching a game before I started playing it. Okay, how achievable is this? Oh, it's got these online I guess I'm not playing that, And I was letting trophies determine if I wanted to enjoy a game or not. And I don't know. I felt that kind of became a bit of a sickness. So I just started to not worry about that as much. That being said, I do still tend to do a lot of the trophies. Maybe not all of them. Yeah. But I still do get a lot of them. I know the last couple games I played, I have got the platinum for Assassin's Creed Rogue earlier this year. Or not Rogue, I'm sorry. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Yeah. I got the platinum for that one, even though it was a little bit of a grind at the end there, just with the collectible aspect, which is I don't know. It's such a collectibles on one hand, they can be fun. They give you that little endorphin injection.
Oh, they really do. Yeah,
5 minutes. Oh, I got a collectible. Beam me up. But at the same time, it's I feel like I'm being manipulated by these game developers.
A little bit, yeah. They do have that effect.
So yeah, still working on Monster Hunter Stories. Hoping to wrap up the story this next week. There is a sequel, which
nice.
This game was originally on 3DS and then Switch, the first one, and then the second game was on Switch. But both games have been ported now to PlayStation 4/5 at the same time. So I don't know that I'll jump straight into the sequel. I kind of like to space those things out. I said months ago I was finally going to play The Last of Us Part 2. I still mean that. It didn't end up being my next game the way I said it would be it. Yeah. But I do want to do that before the year is up. So maybe after Genshin 5.0 update is kind of cleaned up on my end. If I don't decide to go for the Platinum Trophy on Stories, then I'll probably finally start The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. So what's going on? What's coming up? I've got a big personal life event happening this weekend. I'm celebrating 10 years with my girlfriend, partner, whatever you want to call her. I have a name for her, but I won't say it out loud. So I'm going to be busy this week kind of prepping for that. We got some family flying in to attend. So, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish Monster Hunter Stories before then, but I need to find time in these next 2 to 3 days, even though we bowl tomorrow, to try to wrap that up. But what about you? Going to any events or anything gaming related going on in your life? No,
I'm not real gaming. Just the main thing is there's 2 games coming out within the next couple of weeks that I'm interested in.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. What are some upcoming games you're looking for?
Yeah, the first one, it comes out at the end of August. It's that new Star Wars game in the Star Wars world called Star Wars Outlaws, I believe it's called. Yeah. Where you play as a bounty hunter in the Star Wars universe. And it's an open world exploration game, and those are really fun. Yeah. I have a feeling it's going to be a really nice collectible exploration game too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's made by Ubisoft.
Okay.
It makes the Assassin's Creed games, so if it's emulating anything, it's definitely going to have the collectathon aspect to it.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you love your collectathons.
I do, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that one I think is set, it's not just one world you explore though, right? I think
it's going to be multiple systems in the Star Wars universe that you will do.
I think I saw a trailer the other day that showed 5 or 6 different planets.
Probably. Yeah.
and I think you actually fly from like one, like you.
Yeah, you will be in a starship, and I
off.
think there's actually starship missions that you will be doing as well too.
Which is pretty cool. Like you like fly out of the atmosphere, jump to hyperspace, and like go to the next planet and fly into that planet's atmosphere. It's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that game too. I don't know that I'll jump on it maybe as quickly as you will. It'll probably be like a next year game for me personally. I feel like I got a lot on my plate, but I do know there is a game that we're both excited to get on day one.
And that is one that I will be doing first. Star Wars Outlaw will be after that one.
Okay. So, what is it?
Yeah. It is the new Astrobot game.
That's right.
Yeah, so for everyone, I think you talked about this at one point. When the PS5 came out, there was a pre-installed free game included in your PS5 called Astrobot, where you could just kind of...
Astro's Playroom.
Astro's Playroom, yes, thank you. You could get a feel of the new PS5 controller, and you could do these just cheerful little happy levels with this tiny little character.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. It was a very, very, very small game, just like 4 little levels, and you could do these collectibles giving you a history of every single device on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And that was really, really cool for nostalgic players.
Yeah, you find like these like hidden artifacts, so to say, and they get placed into this like museum in the hub area that you can kind of visit in between the levels.
Yeah.
And it, slowly assembles not only like all these artifacts, which are like, full size kind of crazy artifacts that you can like jump on and interact with, and if you smack them around, they might like do some make
they
a
would
noise
do that,
or something, like the classic PlayStation 1 boot up noise,
Yeah.
And then there's also this cool mural that would be like put on the wall that kind of just guided you through like as a timeline of the whole history of PlayStation's history.
Yeah, it included all the years every single device came out.
Yeah. So yeah, that game, it's a platformer game, action platformer, not too different from, I don't know, maybe say kind of a platforming Mario game in a way.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of cheer in games these days. Most games are very serious and gritty.
They can be, yeah.
So it's nice that PlayStation at least a little bit kind of represents that sort of fun aspect of games with stuff like Ratchet and Clank. And now Astrobot's kind of getting his own big day in the spotlight with this game. Now Astro did have a previous game that was released in retail, but it was VR only, and that was
that's right, I remember
Astro's
that one,
Robot Rescue.
Yeah.
If you're ever interested, we could hook that up and you could play.
Okay, I might want to do that.
Yeah. And that's definitely like got a lot of collectibles and hidden stuff. It's,
nice. Okay.
No problem setting that up for you. And a more challenging platinum than you might expect, though. It's not an easy platinum, which makes me think that this new game that's coming out might not be as easy as the one on the free game on PS5, Astro's Playroom, which was a very easy platinum.
Yeah,
but like in a fun way,
definitely.
I mean, it looks to basically be expanding on the idea of Astro's Playroom, like wholesale. Like it's like, hey, remember that 5-hour thing you played? Well, now we're gonna blow it up to 30 hours, and we're gonna introduce all kinds of cool new ideas, gameplay ideas, controller interactivity ideas that are gonna blow your mind. And the music is composed by the same person who composed the music for Astro's Playroom as well as the Astrobot game on PS4.
Okay.
And Kenny Young, I think his name is.
Kenny Young. Okay.
That soundtrack
It was very good. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So good. And that's a huge part of like I think what makes you feel so good while you're playing it is the music, the sound effects, the collectibles. It's just like nonstop. Someone shoving a syringe of endorphins and oxytocin into your body.
Totally.
You're just like, wow, Even you've been around the PlayStation ecosystem for a long time, but you're not like a crazy hardcore I'm the PlayStation guy, right?
Yeah, correct.
So even though like the game on PS5, Astro's Playroom, the first little demo game, had like a lot of like nostalgic stuff, maybe like some of it kind of went over your head, I'm guessing. But still, like you can't help but feel good when you see that mural come together. It's just like
Definitely.
wow, this is so cool, you know. And like, I don't know, some cynical people might say, oh, it's a whole commercial for PlayStation, you know. And it's like, I don't know, I don't buy. You already bought the PlayStation 5. They don't need to sell you on their old stuff, you know. I think it's just a celebration, not a sale. So anyways, if you have yet to play Astro's Playroom on your PS5, do yourself a favor. If you
highly recommend it.
If you uninstalled it, you can go back to the PlayStation Store and re-download it. It is just pure, unfettered happiness and a digital download. Like,
yes,
you gotta check it out.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're looking forward to. And speaking of looking forward, this past weekend, the Pokemon World Championships were in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yes.
And they announced at the end of the show that the Pokemon World Championships are headed to Anaheim in 2025, which is our neck of the woods.
Yep, right down the street.
Yeah, literally 10 minutes away from the convention center. And, you know, this isn't the first time they've been in Anaheim. They were actually in Anaheim like 15, 16 years ago, and then they came back in 2017. And that was the first time I had been to... Actually, that's the second time I've been to the Pokemon World Championships.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I went to one in San Diego with Rick many moons ago in 2009. We drove down there for a day to... or was it 2011? I can't remember.
Okay.
We drove down there for the day to check it out, and it was really cool. And so when it was in my backyard again in 2017, I jumped on the opportunity to get a spectator badge. Unfortunately, it was at the same time that the total solar eclipse was happening in the United States.
Oh, so was it that year?
Yeah.
Oh, I do remember that.
I was only able to go to the first and second day. I think Sunday, the final day, I was flying out to go to Tennessee for the eclipse.
That's right.
And so I let you borrow my badge.
Yeah.
But real quick, I just want to kind of reminisce about it for a moment. So back then, spectator badges, they were sold, I think they were $5 or something like that. And it came with like 2 or 3 booster packs for the card game.
Nice.
When you picked up your badge. Nowadays, the spectator badge is like a lottery style thing. And this was only a year after Pokemon Go had come out.
Yeah.
And they had some special stuff going on.
They did,
at the convention center.
And I'll admit that was the main reason why I went.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
They had Kangaskhan.
Yes.
Appearing in the wild in Anaheim.
That was the big one, because at that time, Kangaskhan was only available in Australia.
Yeah.
It was a regional.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was like a big deal. Like, getting a regional was a big... This is when, like, only Kanto generation... Maybe Gen 2 was available in 2017. I can't totally remember.
I think it was
around that time, maybe. Yeah. They also had Unknown spawning that spelled... Oh, yeah, so Gen 2 was available.
Yeah, Gen 2 was out then,
yeah. So spelling
that
out
makes sense.
Worlds, I think, is what it was spelling out. WORLDS. For whatever reason, the Pokemon World Championships are... like shortened to Pokemon Worlds. I don't know why. It doesn't totally make sense, but like I like that it kind of has its own like Pokemon Worlds, or people just call it like, oh, I'm going to Worlds this year. Yeah, and it's like people know like, oh, you're talking about Pokemon World Championships.
World Championships, yeah.
So yeah, it's coming back to Anaheim. But that year I went. I think Rick actually got a spectator badge too, because I actually had some like photos pop up on my like Google Photos reminders. And it was like me and him sitting in the audience. So I guess at some point he showed up. That year I ran into longtime Pokemon composer and eventually director of many of the game series, Junichi Masuda.
Nice.
So that was the year I got my Pokemon Red and Green soundtrack signed by Masuda.
Okay, very good, yeah.
And then the only championships I was able to watch because I missed the last day of the conference were the Pokken World Championships, which Pokken was Nintendo's or Pokemon's like fighting game essentially. So it was made by Bandai Namco, the people who make the Tekken games. They made a game called Pokken, and it was out on Wii U at the time, and the Wii U was kind of a flop. So they gave it a second chance on Nintendo Switch with Pokemon or Pokken DX.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the game never really totally took off sales wise, like in a crazy way. So a couple of years, I think it was 2 years ago, in 2021 or 2022, that was the last year that the Pokken Fighters tournament was a part of the World Championships, and they kind of like sunset the game basically. And not looking like there's going to be a sequel anytime soon, which I know was like really disappointing to a lot of players. But what I did like is that since I was there for the finals, the director of the game was there, the producer happened to be in the audience, so I was able to get my copy of the game signed back then. I also, as sort of like I don't normally do something like this because the winner of the tournament didn't make the game, but I actually had him sign my copy of the game too. And I wonder what that must have felt like for him. Like, okay, sure.
Okay. I wasn't involved in any way, but sure, yeah, why not?
Yeah, but I know you were there for a few hours on Sunday, the last day. Did you go inside the venue at all?
I did, yeah, just to see just kind of what was in there. And one thing that did draw my mind that was really cool is that they had I believe it was Pikachu and then the Gen 1 starters made out of Legos.
Oh, that's right. They did.
And that they did a really, really good job of that. And I was very impressed by that.
They go, I mean, like, if you think they went, like, if they did, like, cool, impressive stuff back then, they have gone, like, all out now in 2024.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm sure they have,
videos of, like, walkthroughs. It's, like, insane. They had, like, a whole, like, Pokemon museum that had like every game on display.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they definitely have
World
stuff
Championships like museum area where they had like literally every plush from every, because they always release a special plush at the Pokemon Center pop-up that opens up at each World Championships. And I know I went to the Pokemon Center in 2017. I got the jersey, I got the t-shirt, I got some pins, and a handful of other things. And I don't know. Do you remember if you went to the store or not?
Yeah, I think I did, just to kind of look around. I don't think I bought anything major. Okay. Just kind of wanted to browse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder because this year at the World Championships, from what I understand, the store opened up on Wednesday and Thursday, which are technically the days leading up to the start of the convention or the conference or the tournament on Friday, and from what I understand, by Friday the store was basically sold out of everything already.
Yep.
So
stuff like that was very popular.
Yeah, I remember I waited in line. I went down, I think Thursday evening is when they opened up the store for Anaheim in 2017, and I waited in line, and I was waiting next to this guy from like Sweden. And, like, I guess his son was competing, and his son was, I don't know, like a 10, 11, 12-year-old, so competing in the junior division, I think.
Nice.
And, anyways, yeah, I just have this memory of talking to this guy for, like, 2 hours while we waited for the for the doors to open.
Yeah.
And I remember being, like, my mind was blown when I walked into the Pokemon Center, and I don't regret it, but, like, things were, like, so cheap then. And then I remember the next day I went back to get something and they had increased the price. They're like, oh, this is selling too quickly. But like the t-shirts were $25 back then, and they're still $25 this year. So I mean, like,
that's good.
It's not bad, Pokemon's keeping prices relatively, because I'm making a lot more money than I was back in 2017.
Definitely.
Okay, so speaking of shirts, why don't we talk about our shirts real quick. Why don't you talk about what you're wearing right now? Yeah, talk about what you're wearing.
Yeah, I am wearing a shirt that I actually believe I got at that World Champ that I went to.
Yes.
It's a special Pikachu shirt, and it is in the paint stroke form of his shape, and you see these little paint blotches, and on the back is Smeargle with his tail. So they're making it look like Smeargle painted Pikachu.
Like doing like graffiti or
something. Kind of like a graffiti art,
So I'll be a little more descriptive on behalf of Ben. It's a black crew neck t-shirt, short sleeve. On the sleeve, it does have a cool little Pokemon Center tag over there. So it's like the Pokemon Center logo effectively, which sort of has this like kind of shaded look to it. And then it's a green paint on a black shirt. So yeah, it does definitely kind of have graffiti. I love the little Smeargle on the back though. That's pretty cute.
Yeah, I wore it on a Pokemon Go event when Smeargle first came into the game.
Wow.
Yeah, just for fun.
Look at this guy. Trying to like increase his luck odds or whatever. All right, so what shirt do I got today? I have a white crew neck shirt, short sleeve. It features a series of about a dozen red lines that go straight across. And then on the top red line, it has Mario in sort of a jumping position, his classic 2D NES artwork, or not artwork, but sprite work. And it has it like he hit the line and then like a little
coin coming up.
A block popped up with a coin coming out of it. It kind of reminds me, the lines sort of make me think of Donkey Kong a little bit.
Yep.
The classic Jumpman version of Mario who would, climb up and try to rescue Pauline.
That's right.
But it's not exactly that, but it is sort of reminiscent of that. And then on the back, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And then this is part of the Uniqlo collection. Back when they did the collaboration / contest where people could design shirts for Nintendo. I want to say this was 2015 or 16. I might be off on the years there though. And then on the tag on the inside, there isn't really a tag, but it's pre-printed. And it's got the
nice.
UT Uniqlo, and UT is like what they call the public design contest sort of shirt brand, and then it's got like a silver kind of
the silver Mario. I really like that. Yeah,
the Nintendo copyright, and I love these Uniqlo shirts. I've talked about them before, but God, before the pandemic, these shirts were like $12. Now they're like $25. But yeah, I miss.
I love those too. I got a couple myself, and I do get comments every time I wear them.
Where did you get that?
Yeah,
it's like, oh well, long gone, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, so from here we're gonna switch over to the stories, and Ben's gonna say goodbye, and I'm gonna do the story solo.
All right.
So thank you for joining us in this
welcome.
First portion of the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it.
Alright, so we're going to jump into our first story. Back in May of this year, it was announced that Microsoft would be closing their Japan-based studio, Tango Gameworks, the creators of The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and the recent critical darling Hi-Fi Rush. And by all accounts, the studio has been closed for the last... We talked about... like the last month or so, we talked about like them having like a sad corporate pizza party, and that happened. But little did we know that behind the scenes, a Korean games publisher, Krafton, noted for their publishing of the hit battle royale game PUBG, started working with Microsoft to acquire the studio, its staff, and the Hi-Fi Rush intellectual property. On August 12th, GamesIndustry.biz broke the news that Krafton had acquired the studio, with it actually having happened nearly 2 weeks earlier on August 1st. The creative director at Tango Gameworks, John Johannes, posted the following on X. And this is how it continues. We're back, baby. Krafton then said, "This integration reinforces Krafton's dedication to expanding its global footprint and enhancing its portfolio with innovative and high-quality content. The addition of Tango Gameworks represents a strategic alignment with Krafton's mission to push the boundaries of interactive entertainment." Krafton also said that Tango's previous games will remain available for sale wherever and however they are currently. Whether this means that Microsoft retains the rights to the first Hi-Fi Rush game or not is unclear. Microsoft seemingly also retains the IP rights to both The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo. Perhaps Krafton wasn't really interested enough to pay whatever Microsoft was asking for those IPs, Or maybe Microsoft never offered them to begin with. Maybe they think they can do something with them down the line with another studio. But I mean, that's not really a. I don't really see that as a good thing, though. It would have been better if everything went to Krafton, because then at least the people at Tango Gameworks could work on those IP again rather than them sit dormant for who knows how long, maybe forever. Later in the week, Krafton announced that around 50 members of the original team at Tango Gameworks would be retained as part of its acquisition. Tango had close to 100 employees at the time of its closure. My guess would be that some staff either weren't interested in potentially risking it all to join up with a new publisher. They already found new jobs in the last couple months that they've been closed. Yeah, I can't really hold it against them. But the fact that like 50% of the employees are like, hey, let's give this a shot. Let's try again. Krafton plans on taking full advantage of the Hi-Fi Rush IP. They know there's a lot of goodwill towards it. Now, Krafton mostly publishes like free-to-play kinds of games, so there is some concern that a future Hi-Fi Rush game could be shoved full of microtransactions, cosmetics, being turned into like some multiplayer thing, or who knows what. It definitely, I feel like visually, Hi-Fi Rush sort of has that sort of free-to-play like identity to it, where it does have like a lot of mass appeal and like a sort of cartoony vibe, like a lot of other free-to-play kinds of games do. But whether that means it's a right fit for the IP to go that direction is totally remains to be seen. You know, John Johannes, the director of the game, the director of Evil Within 2, who I met at Anime Expo 2 years ago, not this year, last year. He doesn't really strike me as the guy that would want to sign up for something like that. So I'm kind of trying to remain hopeful that Krafton is going to allow the developers to just kind of do what they want and make the game that they want. And this is just going to be a different kind of revenue stream for Krafton. You know, kind of helps legitimize their like publishing brand in a different way. And, you know, they get to maybe like have some, you know, awards and things like that underneath their belt for like helping a studio like Tango Gameworks persist and thrive, you know, fingers crossed. So that's it for that story on Tango Gameworks. I mean, I just want to, I guess if I have anything left to say, it's just that I'm like really happy. Like, I mean, what kind of like I mean, a lot of people thought that maybe a lot of the devs at Tango would form a new studio together. And maybe that would have been better. I'm not totally sure. But, you know, this way, they're not starting from scratch again. They just built this really great new IP that a lot of people like. And Microsoft was basically willing to throw that away because they had some sales misses prior to that with Ghostwire Tokyo. But now, you know, they can continue on with the brand and make something special, make a sequel, go bigger, go smaller. I mean, whatever they want, you know. So I don't know. I just think it's really only good news, and you know, a constant stream of negative news that we've been getting from the games industry. This is like a rare spot of like happiness and joy to be had by developers, and so I hope they really savor that and take this opportunity to blow us away in the future. All right, our next story is about the Pokemon World Championships, which we were talking about earlier in the episode. And so this year they were held in Honolulu, and this was just yesterday was the last day. So I think it was the 16th through the 18th were the official days of the event. And thousands of the world's best trainers converged on the Hawaii Convention Center in Honolulu to partake in battles in games like Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Go, the Pokemon Trading Card Game, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for Nintendo Switch. Like I mentioned earlier, aside from the scalpers buying out the Pokemon Center store stock, there wasn't really much of any controversy this year, at least not until Saturday afternoon. TCG player Ian Robb had just successfully defeated Fernando Cifuentes and earned a place in the top 4 of the Masters Division Finals. But when the camera moved on to the next match, viewers were confused why Ian Robb wasn't sitting at the table preparing for his next match, but Fernando was there instead. It turns out that upon his victory over Cifuentes, Robb made what the Pokemon Company International deemed to be an inappropriate gesture and issued him a loss instead of the win he had actually achieved. So, before this last match, each player had 1 win under their belt, and the first person to get 2 wins would move on to the top 4. So Ian Robb had a win, Fernando had a win, Ian wins, and then Ian makes a celebratory gesture deemed inappropriate, and he gets a loss instead, and Fernando moves on to top 4, and Ian is out. So it turns out this gesture, without being graphic, I describe it as take your hand out, pretend you're rolling some dice in your hands. Like you haven't thrown them yet, you're just kind of rolling them around your hand. And so instead of the dice, while you're doing that motion, imagine what else might be in your hand. And that's the motion that Ian Robb made. So some people are saying that maybe he was just signifying like a dice roll, like wow, I'm so lucky. I don't know that I totally buy that excuse, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So Cifuentes, after receiving that surprise win, he would go on to win the entire Trading Card Game Masters tournament, winning $30,000 in prize money. Sorry, I think it's actually more than 30. I think the video game gets 30. I think Trading Card Game either gets 40 or 50 for first place. Needless to say, though, that this decision and this match had massive implications for the rest of the tournament. Ian was instead out in top 8, and Cifuentes would go on to top 4 and ultimately win everything. Some are saying that the match loss should have been applied to Ian Robb's next set of games. So instead of essentially losing when he had won, he would go into his next set being down 1 game already and his opponent being at a pretty significant advantage. Because the idea is to punish Robb and not necessarily reward Cifuentes. Cifuentes lost. He should have been out in top 8. I'm not saying that what Ian Robb did was right with his motion, but I do think maybe it was a little severe to basically say, oh no, you're not in top 4, you're not winning nearly as much money as you thought you won, you're now out. And, now he still takes home a decent chunk of money, nothing to sneeze at, probably something like 15 grand. But it was still a major loss, for Robb. And Cifuentes hasn't, there's nothing to blame. You can't blame Cifuentes for any of this. But it sucks that history was basically rewritten over a dumb hand gesture. And now Cifuentes, in the eyes of some players, will probably have an asterisk over his win this year. Which he went on to win the rest of his matches, so, more power to him. But I was reading one player's analysis of the person who ultimately went up against Cifuentes in grand finals. He basically had a deck that was at a disadvantage to Fernando Cifuentes' deck. And if he had gone up against Ian Robb decks instead, he would have been statistically likely to be the winner. So, talk about really altering the course of, this imaginary history at this point. My thoughts on the gesture itself are that I don't really buy I'm mimicking a dice roll. Like, the guy's face, Ian Robb's face, and the gesture he was making, he was like looking out to his friend in the crowd, and I don't know. I just don't really buy that it was a fun, silly gesture. Ian Robb is actually a longtime member of the trading card game community. In fact, 12 years earlier, when Pokemon World Championships were in Hawaii, Ian was actually in the junior division, and he won second place for the junior division back then. There's a photo of him looking like this chubby little kid with his giant Pikachu trophy, and he won second place. And people say he's an upstanding guy. He's been a member of the community, has helped the community a lot grow, and it's just a bummer that he got a little too excited, made a silly hand gesture, and basically was eliminated. Now, it could have been worse. Pokemon did not outright disqualify Rob, so like I said, he still takes home a pretty decent package of money in winnings. But I mean, this should be a lesson to him and anybody else. When you're working with one of the most family-friendly brands on the planet, don't mess around, take your W, and keep your hands down and to yourself. For our final story, we're going to keep it on the topic of Pokemon. But instead of being kind of ironic and silly, we're going to be talking about something a little sad. So in May of this year, news broke that Rachael Lillis, the original English voice actor for Misty, Jessie, and Jigglypuff, had been diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. Her sister Lori had opened up a GoFundMe to obtain financial assistance to help Rachael with the costs associated with the care. Sadly, just 4 months later, Rachael has succumbed to her illness. She died on Saturday, August 10th, at the age of 55. There was mixed reporting. Some people were saying she was 46, and some places were saying she was 55. I ultimately settled on the one that said she was 55, just based on the caliber of the outlet. So I'm hopeful that that's actually correct. So on Monday, August 12th, Veronica Taylor, the original voice of Ash Ketchum, broke the news that Rachael had passed with the following statement. It's with a very heavy heart that I share the news of the passing of Rachael Lillis on Saturday evening, 10th of August, 2024. Rachael was an extraordinary talent, a bright light that shone through her voice, whether speaking or singing. She will forever be remembered for the many animated roles she played, with her iconic performance as Pokemon's Misty and Jessie being the most beloved. Rachael was so thankful for all the generous love and support that was given to her as she battled with cancer. It truly made a positive difference. Her family also wishes to thank you as they take this time to grieve privately. A memorial is being planned for a future date. Later that same day, her sister Lori posted the following update on the GoFundMe page. Hello everyone. With a heavy heart, I regret to say that Rachael has passed away. She passed away peacefully Saturday night, without pain, and for that we are grateful. She is with God, the angels, and the family that has passed before her, surrounded by infinite love. Unfortunately, regrettably, I was not with her. It was just this past week that she started declining. This was unexpected, and we are completely grief-stricken. We ask for peace for now, as her family grieves this loss. Rachael, Ray, as we called her, was a beautiful, smart, and talented person with a kind heart who was so moved by all of you. I would forward emails and comments to her just in case she missed any from the GoFundMe. She likened the response to this GoFundMe to the movie It's a Wonderful Life, when George is surprised to learn just how much he is loved by his friends and how much they do care. She was moved to tears when seeing the GoFundMe page with your comments and kind thoughts. She remembered many of you that she happily met at conventions and relayed stories to us about the experience and all the people she appreciated meeting. All of us have been so moved by the response from all of you. Funds donated for Rachael will go to any medical bills remaining, the memorial service for her, and causes in her name specifically towards the effort to combat cancer. My heart breaks losing my dear little sister, though I am comforted knowing she is free. God bless you all with love, health, and peace, Lori. Rachel worked on the Pokemon animated series from 1998 to 2006. In 2006, the animated series changed hands from 4Kids Entertainment to being directly produced by the Pokemon Company, and the original voice cast was not rehired for various contractual reasons. Now, there's some people that dispute this. Veronica Taylor, the voice of Ash Ketchum, has said over the years that the Pokemon Company wanted to find people who were cheaper than they were. If that's true, that's really disappointing. I think the only voice actor who carried over from the original series to the series that was produced by the Pokemon Company themselves was the narrator. The guy who at the end of every episode, the journey continues. He, aside from a very brief period of like 10 or 15 episodes where he didn't do that, he did that from episode 1 all the way until last year's episodes that concluded Ash's journey. Rachel's voice would continue to be sampled in game projects such as Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Her voice was even used in the Detective Pikachu movie. Her voice is just that iconic. Like, you can't do Jigglypuff without Rachel. Rachel will continue to work in anime and animation projects, with her most recent project being credited from 2019. She made frequent appearances at conventions around the US from that point forward. So, I don't really have anything crazy profound to say other than, she was obviously, anyone in their 30s, late 20s, probably spent a lot of time watching the Pokemon animated series in the 90s, early 2000s. And, she was a big part of our Saturday mornings. I just think that after this podcast ends, we should all go listen to Together Forever from the album Pokemon To Be a Master in honor of Rachel. Rest in peace. End transmission.